Hey everyone, it's ENDYMION, and my goodness, 3 videos in a row and all about Dragon Age. It's almost as if too much nonsense is happening or something. In this video, I'll be telling you what I've been told by sources within BioWare, who have worked there in years past, and even people who are working there right now. Beyond this, we gotta talk about some cringe scenes in this game, EA CEO gaslighting players into believing that this is a new age for BioWare, and much more. Put on your hazmat suits, pray to whatever god you love, and let's start rolling in this nonsense. As of this video going live, Veilguard is available to play, God help us all. I don't think the game will do poorly out of the gate, however, we'll have to see if this game has any legs going forward in terms of staying power. I will be playing this game, I have it on my PS5 already, and I am fighting with myself here whether I want to make myself in the game as best as I can, or if I should create the most woke, pandering dwarf they-them as my rook. God help me, I am losing my mind over here. Okay, let's start with the leaks that I've been told. So I spoke to a few BioWare devs, one of them definitely no longer works there anymore, but they had plenty to say, and I wanted to relay this information to you because I want to chronicle how things got this bad. To begin with, I asked this source, when did they start to see BioWare changing from what it was to what it is right now? And I'm told it was exactly when the first Gamergate happened, which was 2014, the same year that Inquisition came out. Of course, Inquisition wasn't really affected that much by Gamergate, as it was mostly done by the time Gamergate actually kicked off. But once this happened, which, if you don't know, the first Gamergate was created by players, due to the ethics of video games and journalism starting to turn against the players. This has, of course, evolved over time into what we now call Gamergate 2, which is still raging on as we speak. But this is when I'm told BioWare really changed their gears into we need to pander harder mode. Originally, as I was told, BioWare wanted to reject what the social justice warriors that were infiltrating these studios wanted to happen. People like Anita Sarkeesian at this time were all of the rage with her feminist frequency nonsense, and demanding that games adhere to a more pro-woman, anti-man, specifically white male agenda. And like I said, BioWare initially was against this 100%. There were people at the top of BioWare that were referred to as rock stars. These people were each in charge of different departments. They apparently had very big egos and threw their influence around all the time because, you know, they were the top dogs. I was also told the reason why Veilguard's codename was Morrison was because BioWare internally codenames their games based on various famous musicians. I'm going to assume this means Veilguard was named codename Morrison because of Jim Morrison, who is a famous musician, but there are other people with similar last names, but there you go. Now you know why BioWare names their games weird things in codename ways anyways. During Gamergate 2, BioWare, as I'm told, was walking on eggshells the entire time because they were terrified of anything they had in their games that could disrupt or cause the public to not want to support them in the future. This led to a lot of assets being removed, especially in demos they were showing at events. One example that I was given was that there was a tech demo that had sexy female art in it, and the Rockstar art director at the time at BioWare demanded that this art stay within the demo because they believe that BioWare fans want games with blood, sex, and violence. And I mean, yeah, I agree, that is what we want, because that's what Origins was built upon. But this was considered too prudish, I guess for lack of a better term, and it was removed anyway in order to not piss off this new wave of feminists that were infiltrating and rotting out these companies from the inside out. Old BioWare, as I'm told, was not a place for DEI at all. Their only rule pretty much was to be respectful of everybody else and be professional, since this is a work environment. Besides that, back in the day, people, as I understand, were allowed to be whatever they wanted to be openly. Liberal, conservative, it didn't matter. Of course, now, it's not like that at all clearly, as I'll show you, but BioWare did prioritize hiring women for a period of time. But it wasn't what you thought it was actually for quality assurance. As I was told, women were found to be far more detail-oriented when it came to fine-tuning the quality of games before they came out versus their male counterparts, like finding bugs and such. And the female QAs were surpassing the male ones in terms of finding bugs and ensuring that the games were made to meet the standards of BioWare fans. I have no problem with this at all. Again, the two genders have different strengths, and this furthers what I and many others already know. Men are stronger for the most part physically, but women are usually more mindful and able to see things that men cannot as easily. It's why they balance each other out. This is common sense. But anyway, also what I was told is that when Inquisition came out, at least, that the primary player base for Dragon Age was actually women over men. To be specific, it was women in their mid-20s to mid-30s that were actually the main demographic for these sorts of games. Which also doesn't surprise me, since women tend to gravitate towards games where they can customize and make characters and, have romances, which are all big things that Dragon Age is known for. I was also told after Inquisition, going into Anthem, that Electronic Arts had people go to BioWare demanding that the developer would hire female consultants to help better shape their games into being for what the women wanted. Although Electronic Arts did not want to get consultation from the actual women who already worked at BioWare on these games, which makes about as little sense as you likely know. What this meant is that they wanted to bring in those weird, woke feminists into BioWare to ensure that the games met their standards and not the demands of actual BioWare female fans. This, as I was told, became the beginning of the end of BioWare, where this rot began to settle in and fester until Veilguard came out today. Following the release of Inquisition and the development of Anthem, I was told there was a mass layoff of core BioWare devs from the company. There was also this practice, as I'm told, where BioWare devs would be mandated to teach their role to that of hand-picked Electronic Arts employees. Then once the EA employee learned and understood the role of the BioWare dev shortly after, EA would actually just fire the dev that taught them and then replace them with their EA yes men and women employees that could then replicate what they could do but were loyal to EA over BioWare. Apparently, it became well known and feared within BioWare at this time that if an EA manager asked you to train a new hire in your position, it meant that you were going to get axed in less than a year for sure. This obviously destroyed morale at BioWare and caused many devs, like I said, to mass exodus their way out of the studio. Some refusing to teach someone what they did and rather just leaving and letting EA kick rocks and, panic instead. As my source told me, what was left of BioWare following the release of Anthem, especially going into Veilguard, was not the BioWare that you knew anymore. But in their own words, it's now a ghost of BioWare, and it's simply Electronic Arts yes men wearing the skin suit of BioWare over them to disguise their true intentions. And by the way, who's the director of Veilguard? Well, it's the same person that directed The Sims, which, there you go, an EA property. This was terrible, considering BioWare was originally promised by EA when they bought them that they would be able to operate as they did before with little oversight. But this, over time, clearly did not become the case, and now we are where we are. Managers within BioWare also made sure to tell their employees who was a BioWare manager and who was an EA manager. This basically meant that there was two separate entities, if you will, working within the halls of BioWare simultaneously. Very weird, right? The dev told me that they recall when they were working on Anthem as well that the game was not originally what players ended up seeing. Anthem, in their words, was a massive, quiet, open-world game with a non-linear story and then optional co-op. The best comparison that they could give me was it was Shadow of the Colossus in feel, but mixed with a science fiction version of Skyrim's world. And your friends could join you, and it was drop-in and drop-out gameplay sort of stuff. The build was sent to EA's CEO Andrew Wilson, who played the demo over Christmas break and said that he demanded BioWare turn the game into a looter shooter, and well, the rest is history. Pivoting for a second here, actually, Andrew Wilson spoke recently on Veilguard as well. This is from that Park Place. EA CEO Andrew Wilson claims Dragon Age: The Veilguard has breakout potential in remarks that sound similar to Ubisoft CEO regarding Star Wars Outlaws. Andrew Wilson said during EA's Q2 2025 earnings call to investors, and I quote, "It's an amazing time at EA, and in 2 days we will launch Dragon Age: The Veilguard. It's been 10 years since we launched its predecessor Game of the Year winner, Dragon Age Inquisition. Early critic scores are strong and reflect a high-quality depth and detail in Niche's action-packed adventures. We expect Dragon Age to be a great example of how our blockbuster storytelling engages and connects fans in truly unique ways. I certainly think Veilguard has breakout potential. Again, 10 years ago, Dragon Age Inquisition won Game of the Year and was a very strong performer for us in the conduct of our business. This is entertainment. And so while much of our business has moved to live service moment to moment, deliver innovation and creativity for a deeply engaged community over the course of time, this opportunity to bring in incredibly high quality creative storytelling set in an amazing world, success almost certainly follows, and we will see that in the context of movies. And we're seeing that in the context of TV seasons, and we see that in the context of video games. When we think about what we have with Veilguard right now, we have a storied studio in BioWare. We have a storied IP in Dragon Age. We have a team that took extra time to make sure the world was rich and the characters were interesting and the story was compelling. I think we are going into a market that has limited competition for this category of game given some of the moves that have been happening across the broader industry. And so while I think it's too early to predict the outcome, the critical reviews have been incredibly strong. The team feels very energized by what they have delivered, and my sense is that yes, it has breakout capabilities, end quote. So as you can see, Andrew Wilson, the CEO of EA, genuinely believes that Veilguard is what players have been waiting for in terms of BioWare's games. Again, we have seen some scathing reviews claiming that Veilguard is not at all what players want and feels like a Fisher-Price version of the series we loved. Another source also showed me how BioWare is going out of their way to promote and hire the most identity politically driven activists that they can find. Also, allegedly as I was told, BioWare actually went over to the Mass Effect team to ask their writers to help on Veilguard. Because what I was told, the original writing for Veilguard was considered very cringe and awful. And the Mass Effect writing team that is there working on the next game had to come in and help iron out Veilguard, if you will. Apparently, one of the key parts that the Mass Effect writers worked on was actually Rook's dialogue, your playable character. Because it was considered just plain awful before, but even with the help of the Mass Effect writers that are there, most of what the Veilguard writers wrote, apparently, it still made it into the game. And I mean, just watch this clip of what is considered a romantic scene in Veilguard for proof.
Please listen. You're not alone. Whatever's out there, we'll face it together, I promise. Together.
I could kiss you right now. I'm going to kiss you right now.
Please, there's something we might need to. It's your magic.
Rook?
You make the world spin, Lace Harding.
Rook! Lyrium. It's like I'm infused with lyrium.
I noticed it when we touched. That night when we talked about your dreams.
You knew? You knew and you still kissed me?
Wow, I feel drunk.
Yeah, it's because I turned your head into mush.
Or it's love.
You boob! This is not funny! Okay, I'll fix it. I promise. I will find a way and I will fix it. Okay? Okay? Damn it, no, don't touch!
Are you still here? You're not dead from the cringe? There is an even worse scene. However, EA and BioWare are apparently scrubbing this other cutscene specifically from the internet because it is such a mask-off moment for the game and the ideology behind it. So while I cannot show you this scene in this video, unfortunately, I can at least set up and explain the scene for you. So this cutscene stars everybody's favorite non-binary Qunari Tosh talking to Isabella from Dragon Age 2, who cameos in this game. I guess spoilers, but who really cares? This entire conversation is Isabella and Tosh gaslighting Rook, the playable character, and, whoever is playing the game, into bending the knee when it comes to accepting non-binary as a legitimate way of identifying someone, and shaming you if you've ever misgendered someone by accident in real life. I'm not kidding, dude. I wish I could show you it here, but if I do, it's very likely that BioWare and EA will try to nuke me for it. But since I can't show you this clip, which is nuclear level cringe, instead I will show you a clip compiled by Twitter user Christina Tasty, which showcases the difference between Veilguard against Inquisition and Origins. So here, watch this.
In Kunadar, Krem would be an Akunatlak. That's what we call someone born one gender but living like another.
A person is born, Qunari or human or elven or dwarf. He doesn't choose that. The size of his hands, whether he is clever or foolish, the land he comes from, the color of his hair, these are beyond his control. We do not choose, we simply are.
And Qunari don't treat those a Kuhn people any differently than a real man.
I don't understand. You look like a woman. Why would women ever wish to be men? That makes no sense. Women are priests, artisans, shopkeepers, or farmers. They don't fight.
As you saw, Sten from Origins clearly confirms that women are not able to fight within the Qunari at all. Of course, Tosh and Veilguard is very clearly not following the Khun. This was confirmed in another clip that, again, I can't show because BioWare will attack me if I do. The point is that the BioWare we knew versus the BioWare we have now are not the same companies at all. I wish the people who were against this at BioWare could just rise up and push back against it, because this is evidently not what players want from these games, and it saddens me to see this. Besides this, what I was also told is that BioWare has already cut down in terms of size following Veilguard's release. I don't know if it's layoffs or just people leaving after development is done, but yeah, from what I'm told, they're already downsizing the studio. What I'm also told is EA regularly schedules what are called town halls to make developers be subjected to the ramblings of middle-aged woke women about why they must check their privilege and accept DEI into their lives. Basically, these companies are trying to indoctrinate their employees into loyal, woke cultists. Now, in terms of the person who works at BioWare right now, and I really can't tell you who this person is, because if I told you, you would be so surprised. I'm not kidding you. But anyway, they said that current BioWare is more woke than anyone is thinking right now. Like, they're so identity politically driven over there right now, this very instant, that whatever you think it is, it's so much worse than that. Apparently, it's more so about getting more women into these companies than anyone else. Men are pretty much excluded entirely unless they identify as some form of non-whatever and so on. At BioWare anyway, as I was told, they are only interested in hiring people who they can control within the company. They want essentially what can only be considered as cultists that parrot and embrace the ideology that the higher-ups at BioWare demand. BioWare, as we know it, is a corpse being worn by EA yes-men that is filled to the brim with cult-like pandering weirdos. And as this person said, once the new director, Corinne Bush, came onto Veilguard, that's when all of this stuff got really, really bad. I mean, I've been told this by devs at other studios too, but it seems like BioWare as its own entity is one of the wokest, if not the most, in the entire industry right now that we are aware of. This game is, for all intents and purposes, genuine propaganda on the same level as Dustborn, if not even worse. I do think that Veilguard will be the thing that breaks the wokes back in terms of acceptance, because they've simply gone too far this time, and I think now that the game is out in the wild, you're going to be seeing plenty of examples getting released that I will no doubt be chronicling for all of you to see so that we have proof for years to come. This simply cannot stand. I wish I didn't have to buy this game to experience it so that I could review it. I feel terrible knowing that I gave any amount of money for this game at all. But if I have to waste some of my own money to save hundreds of thousands of others out there from wasting their own, then I think it's a good way of going about it. Do I think you should buy Veilguard? No, I truly do not think so. Based on what we can see, this just may be the most offensively on-the-nose woke dumpster fire that even trumps Dustborn, Suicide Squad, Concord, any of it. This is the event horizon of the year when it comes to this kind of stuff. I don't think there's going to be a more divisive and pandering game this year than this. I just don't really see it happening at all. And I would be genuinely surprised if BioWare survives this game's release. Their best case scenario is EA gives them another final chance and then just pours this entire studio into the next Mass Effect. And then if that fails or pushes some kind of nonsense, then it's over. But I wouldn't be surprised at this point if the underperformance or reception to Veilguard closes down the studio forever and BioWare just kind of dies for good. And like I said before, BioWare has clearly gone out of their way to hire activists for these positions on purpose. Speaking of hiring activists, Savvy, a friend of the channel, shared this information about one of the people that has been hired by BioWare to work on Veilguard. As Savvy puts it, wanting a glimpse into who is responsible for the super quirky and talented writing we've seen so far of Dragon Age. What I love most about the writing we've seen is that it truly speaks from an authentic, self-inserting kind of way that is void of nuance in exchange for low-effort knockoff Marvel humor from someone who substitutes reality for fantasy and fantasy for reality. The person's name is Laura Kate Dale. Don't harass this person, and the name may not seem familiar at first, but you'll realize who this is in a bit here. They said via Twitter, "I just got approved to say this. I worked on Dragon Age the Veilguard. I've been sitting on this secret for nearly 4 years, and I am so excited to finally be able to tell everyone I'm in the credits. Thank you so much to Patrick Weeks for reaching out to get me involved." Laura Kate Dale describes themselves as a content creator who is an author and consultant on queer representation specifically within video games and accessibility. It's all the usual buzzwords you've heard before, but yeah, this person has officially worked on the new Dragon Age. Now, I told you that you would recognize this person, so it turns out this Laura worked for Kotaku before they worked at BioWare on Veilguard. In fact, you may remember that one story Kotaku released where they claimed that Nintendo Super Smash Bros. Ultimate had a disability slur included involving Joker from Persona 5. And this all ended up being fake, and it caused a huge ruckus and was yet another reason why ethics in video games journalism is a thing that we need to keep accountable. Well, yeah, you probably guessed it by now, but the same person that did this on Dragon Age, they made that article at Kotaku as well. This same Laura was also the one who infamously wrote the article about the late Total Biscuit and the Gamergate stuff too. That article, by the way, if you look it up on Kotaku, is now suspiciously gone and no longer exists. I should also state that this Laura, after that Smash Brothers disability slur story that they published, it got so much backlash that they were actually forced by Kotaku to step down and leave the company. They were accused of rage baiting and posting false information to spin a story for the website. You know how bad you gotta be that Kotaku of all places fires you cause you're disingenuous? But that's exactly what happened here. This is who BioWare hired to work on Veilguard, a literal propaganda games journalist with activist-like mentality and all of that. Also, the person who hired Laura, of course, it's this guy they showed in that Dragon Age video from years ago. Everything about this game is just identity woke maxing to the fullest. There's no other way of putting it. It's awful, man, but it needs to be said because we know these journalists will never tell you what's really happening out of fear of blacklisting or something. But they can blacklist me all they want because I can care less. It's never going to stop me from telling you guys the truth. We are witnessing the death of a beloved studio, but it's clearly not the studio that we remember. I would say, don't buy this game. And if you really want to play it, at the very least, wait for a sale, I guess. I mean, it's already November. The game will inevitably get priced slash sometime come this holiday season. But in general, if you had little interest to begin with, no, don't do it. Send a message. Go watch whoever your favorite streamer is or someone else playing it and then suffer through it that way instead. You do not need to waste your own money on this. Thank you for watching. I'll have a new video in the coming day or two. Until then, have a wonderful day. Subscribe. Thanks to my supporters, and please take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one.